Good morning, everybody. And this is Dr. Betty with the Dream Team once again. And just wanted to give you a reiteration of how we got started. All of us spoke at a conference in San Diego last month, and we realized that we have all complementary strengths, and each of us is really good at the finance piece and all of that. But each one of us really focuses our genius on one part of the business or on several parts of the business. So today what we're bringing to all of you is a case study of one particular client of something specific that we did with the client. So listen for areas that you may have situations, or you may have friends that are also entrepreneurs or business leaders that have similar situations. And if they need some help, then just tell them to give us a call. At the end of this, we're going to talk about how do you get a hold of us. So with no further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. There are four of us on the call today. So let's get started with Elizabeth today. Elizabeth Fuchs, who is the CEO of Anura Financial Services. Elizabeth.
Good morning. Thank you. So yes, my name is Elizabeth Fuchs from Ambro Financial Services, and I specialize in helping businesses, established businesses, continue to expand and strategically look for growth. The example I'm bringing today is I had a client. They were an aircraft parts service provider, actually an aircraft service provider. They would do all of the overflow of the UPS, FedEx, all of that for a specific route between an island and the United States. And in this particular case, they were transporting some goods that required special bonding from customs in order to allow for the aircraft to land in the United States. And unfortunately, they did not realize this until the aircraft had already taken off from the island en route to the United States. So I get a call at the very beginning of my day from a very frantic CEO, Liz, we are in dire need of putting together a bond for customs to allow us to land the plane before they run out of fuel on their way to LAX. We quickly gathered everybody together, and because we were proactive in our relationship with them, we had established a sublimit under their line of credit that allowed them to issue instruments called standby letters of credit. So for businesses, a standby letter of credit can serve as a replacement for a traditional insurance bond that you would get from your insurance company, as it basically tells the beneficiary the bank will be responsible for making that payment if something were to go wrong. So it moves the credit risk away from the company and it moves it to a, AAA rated bank. So quickly, we went ahead and took down the information that we needed. We needed an application filled out with the details of what was required for the standby letter of credit. And I was on the phone with our standby letter of credit department as they were literally typing this thing together so that we could get it all in literally an hour so that they could then send it to customs that was waiting for it before they would allow the aircraft to land at LAX. So needless to say, they got it on time. They were able to land. They did not run out of fuel. And it was actually a story featured in our annual report that year. That's what you learn from this is be proactive in your relationships with your bankers. Make sure that you have contingencies within your credit structure that allows for emergencies like this to occur. So if you issue insurance bonds or anything like that, I would recommend have a sublimit under your line of credit that allows for you to do that in the event that you need to in a very short window. And then two, check logistics, make sure that whatever you're transporting meets all the requirements before you have the aircraft take off from your source to the destination. So that would be my example right there, Dr.
Oh,
Betty.
My goodness, Elizabeth, that is amazing. One of the things that I keep seeing as a common thread in your in what you bring to the table is that risk mitigation and how you're able to just really think strategically about the business and be able to um, learn so that you can anticipate and plan for unforeseen circumstances. And that happens in large businesses, but it also happens in small businesses as well. So I can't thank you so much for your insight and your knowledge. I want to go to Amanda next because I want to give kind of a contrast between a really large business and then some of the other types of businesses that Amanda focuses on. So this is Amanda Taylor with us, and she was with us as well last week. Amanda, let's go to you next.
Yeah, thank you, Betty. I know in the past episodes, I've talked a lot about real estate investing, and that is where I started my entrepreneurial journey. But I also have a business development company. And so I wanted to talk about that today because, yes, complete contrast. I work with a lot of small businesses, even solopreneurs, because they have this passion for what they do and they want to do it and they just don't know how to get from point A to point B. And that is where we come in. So a client that I just started working with about a month ago is a wholesaler for crawfish, which another Louisiana seafood, and he brings it into Texas and sells it to restaurants or clients. And he was just doing it off of his Facebook page. People called him to place orders, and then he would bring it in, have them come pick it up. And he wanted to start expanding. His dream was to have cut out the middleman, have his own location, his own trucks. And, he was just doing it off of a Facebook page. So we came in and started where we've talked about, getting business credit up front. So we were able to get him some business credit so that he could get a truck. Okay. Start that process. And then the biggest part that we did was allow him to get a full build out of a CRM that allowed a website, landing page. We got his Google business platform set up so that he was popping up on searches, got that SEO going. And we got it to where he could take orders on his website. So we were able to automate most of what he was having to do from his phone and on a piece of paper. So things were automated into a system. And then he just got either a text message or an email saying, "You just got an order. This payment," he wasn't even taking credit cards at that time. So we were able to set up his merchant services account and get that all set up to go directly into his bank. And it just seamlessly got orders in. He was able to process those orders. The people placing the orders were getting their receipts directly to their email without him having to do anything, getting reminders of their pickup dates. And also, in order to boost his business, as soon as they pick up, they automatically get an email asking them to give us a review. So they get reviews now on Facebook, on Google, so that that business continues to get more and more visibility. Now, as we continue to work with this client, we also do SBA loans. So if he wants to get that warehouse, get that building, we do have the opportunity to work with him as we continue to automate his systems, expand his reach, increase his revenue, and then we can get him a loan to get that building so that he can ultimately reach his dream. Now, we call this, we kind of put everything together between our funding sources, our technology, and some of the partners that we work with. We call it an entrepreneur toolkit. We want to make business, small business, accessible and successful. We all know the statistics of small business, and that's why we've put together kind of the whole package. We're not just, a CRM platform. We're not just funding. We have coaching built in there because there's so much in running a business. You don't know what you don't know. So let's walk together through this. Let's teach you how to run these numbers. And let's do the whole package along with you to make you successful because we can't do it alone. And as a solopreneur, you get stuck in trying to do the same thing over and over. And without that guidance, that's where we fall short in some of those things. So that's where we are with this client. We're bringing together so much of the tools and the resources and the strategies that they might not otherwise have access to really, I say, automate to accelerate. And that just takes so much off of their plate so that they can move and do the revenue generating activities that are going to help them skyrocket.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Amanda. And you're right. You've got several businesses and several geniuses that you bring to the table. And so what I heard from you is making the small business accessible and successful at the same time. You can't be successful if people don't know who you are. So the social media, the automated systems, all of those things, expanding the reach, increasing their revenue, and then of course being able to buy your building is the dream of a small business owner. I remember the first time that I started my manufacturing company, that's where I wanted to get, and nobody would lend me the money. And I didn't have somebody like you to really support me in growing my business. I had to factor out my receivables. It was just crazy. And so if you have any questions about how do I expand my business, I've made this decision, I've got this strength, who do I go to? Go to Amanda. All right, so let's go next to Ambro Blackwell. Ambro, let's talk about what your genius is and how you've expanded your customer.
Yes, yes. Hey, Ambro Blackwell here. I am a Wall Street Journal bestselling author for my book, Small Business Loans Made Simple. And what I do is I help business owners through education and practice improve their cash flow and get access to funding for their business. And what I'm wanting to talk about in particular at this moment is the importance of teamwork and having your partners all aligned. I'm going to give you an example of a time where a business owner was working with their new accounting firm, CPA as well. And the power of having everyone aligned sometimes can save you a lot of time and a lot of trouble. So in this case, the accounting firm was wanting to work with me for the longest. They were wanting to introduce me to their clients, and we get a client. And so we are taking a look. I'm looking at their financials, the documentation, and there's an importance of having everything together. And one of the great things about having multiple parties aligned is everyone's on the same page because you have different geniuses, different expertise that excel in certain areas. And in this particular case, what ended up happening is when they provided me the financials and the documentation, I was able to help the accounting firm understand some of the things that we were looking for. Also, at the same time, there were things that were incorrectly prepared and done on the financials, tax returns. So there were certain things like real estate, many pieces of real estate that were not showing up on the tax statement. So the client was not getting the benefit of the depreciation or the interest expense. So in essence, the business was probably overstated in its income. So if you go and approach a lender and you have information, things like that that are off base, it's going to look bad. Underwriters are going to look at this and they're going to say, well, how can we trust any of the other information if it's not appropriate? This is why it's important. You may think that, hey, I may not need to talk to my banker, I may not need to talk to my CPA, or I may not need to talk to my lawyer. It's good to have check-ins and make sure that they're all aligned and that they know each other and that they're connected with each other. Because when you need access to capital, you don't want to have to make it an emergency. You want to be able to prepare for it in advance. And sometimes that is planning. That might be planning at the end of the year for your next year, or it might be planning throughout the year for later parts in the year. But it's very important that you have everyone on the same page. And so what we did is we went back, we went through, we helped identify some of the gaps and the areas that things were missing. And then the client ended up actually having to go through and refile, unfortunately, their financials. But it's important for them to get it cleaned up and right. And now we have these quarterly check-ins over the years that's allowed them and us to be able to be on the same page. And so that's an important piece. Again, make sure you've got everyone connected as much as possible. It takes a team to be successful. You can go far by yourself, but you go further with a great team.
I love that. You can go far by yourself, but you can go further with a great team. And the education piece is so important, Ambro. And I don't know if you have a copy of your book that you can show right here. If you don't, we will make sure and do that next week. But it's an education piece. Ambro's book really will educate you on how you can go to a financial institution, a bank, or whomever to be able to expand your business. And he's putting together some things that will really help the business owners. So the power of really having everyone aligned and of checking in with your bank, which is really interesting how your story comes right into my story because I had a similar situation, Ambro. My situation is really simple. I had a surgeon who had, and this is a few months ago, there was a surgeon that had the surgery clinic, and that was the hub. And then the spokes were the different clinics around the geography of that particular clinic. And the way that that one worked was each of those clinics would feed into the surgery clinic. Well, this client had a loan with their bank. And when you have a loan with a bank, normally you have conditions to that loan. And those conditions also, the part of the conditions to the loan are you have the opportunity to submit your financials. Now, if you're a business owner, it's a pain in the neck. Like, oh my gosh, I've got to send my financials every quarter, every month, or whatever. It just depends on the type of a loan and then the risk of the loan. That's how those conditions are placed on the owner. Well, this particular loan was called. What that means is they said you're going to have to pay up the loan right away. This was the first phone call that this individual got from their banker was your loan is going to be called and you're going to have to do this. And I said, well, wait a minute, haven't you been submitting your financials? He said, well, yeah, but nobody has given me a call. I said, well, then you have the wrong banker. And so we started talking about the banker. How do you know that you have the right banker? So I want to talk about that because having the right person, and you have people here, you have individuals here that have also just talked to you about educating you, your banker and your person, whoever it is that you're working with, they should be educating you on the process of whatever it is that you're doing. Whether they take you along or they come to your business, they should be kicking the tires on your business. And then another piece is I asked him, I said, when you came to this particular banker, how long have you had him? Well, I've had this loan for like 3 years. How many phone calls have you gotten? How many visits have you gotten? How many times have you gone to lunch with this person? How many times do they know your business? And how do you know that they know your business? Do they have this as a niche for their business? Doing lending and doing banking is like doing advisory, almost like what Amanda is doing. She's talking about advising her customers. Elizabeth is talking about advising her customers. Ambro is talking about advising their customers. I advise all my customers and I bring them in. And if they can't see it, then I bring them so that they can see it. But then I have to transform myself in the way that I am teaching my client so that I can teach them in the way that they learn, not the way that I teach. They're the client. I am just the teacher. And if I'm not the best person for that client, it's my responsibility to say, you know what? I'm not the best person for you on this. Let me bring you the right person. And as financial institution folks or financial organizations, we all come across really good people. How do we come across really good people? We look at the financials. We know who the CPAs are that are really good CPAs. Ambro just brought an example. This CPA was probably not the right CPA for this person. In my case, This banker was just not. And so we started by just really looking at the banker. The next conversation I had with them, I told them, okay, this is how you interview the banker. You've got to know that the banker understands your industry. How many customers like me have you had? Are you familiar with the health industry? Because the health industry is different than any other industry. So is the manufacturing industry different than any other industry. So is the import export. Every industry has its own niche and a way that they declare their financials, a way that they look at their financials. And so in this particular case, we switched banks for this client. We went to a different bank, a different banker, and we went to a bank that really specialized in the health industry and a banker that really understood the kind of industry that he was in the expansion process. Because if a banker has never helped you expand your business or other clients like you, if you don't get referrals, okay, tell me about another client and ask them if I can call them so that you know that yes, this person really expanded my business and I highly recommend them. We don't think of bankers, we don't think of financial institutions and also of financial advisors in that way. And so I'm sure Amanda has a lot of people that can say, oh my gosh, raving review. And look at their LinkedIn profile also. Bankers normally have a LinkedIn profile and they have customers that say, thank you so much for the business. Thank you so much. Oh, yes. And you did this for me. If they're putting articles that are educational articles, educating the client. Ambro wrote a book. Not just an article, a whole book. So that is how you know. And then the other piece that we did for this client is, hey, how about you? Where are you? Well, I'm in the east of the United States. Have you ever thought about going national? And then we'll take them global. But have you thought about going national? Think big. And oh no, I haven't thought about it, but you know what? That's a really good idea. So we're starting to take a look at, okay, what other surgery centers can we find in the West Coast and begin with the end in mind. So that's just my situation. So taking a look at who are you surrounded with? And Ambrose said it, going with a group, you can go, it's more solid and you can go faster. But going faster by yourself is not going to get you to the right place. Going faster by yourself is just going to get you to one single place. When you have a team of committed advisors in your different areas, and when you can go to one person and they can bring you a team, holy mackerel, you've got it made in the shade. So that is it. And so the question for all of you is, how does anyone that is listening get a hold of you? So I'm going to start with Elizabeth. How do people get a hold of you, Elizabeth?
LinkedIn. Just go onto LinkedIn and look up Elizabeth Fuchs. There's not a lot of me, so you can easily find me there.
Beautiful. Thank you, Elizabeth. Amanda, how about you?
Same. You can find me on LinkedIn, Amanda Taylor Biz, B-I-Z, or expandyourempire.org.
Nice. Very nice. Thank you, Amanda. And Ambro?
You can find me on LinkedIn under Ambro Blackwell. You can go to my website, yourcashflowstrategist.com. And you can also find me on Instagram, Ambro Black.
Beautiful. And for me, it's really simple. Also at LinkedIn, Dr. Betty Uribe on LinkedIn. My website is drbettyuribe.com. So with that, we conclude today. Thank you so much for being with the Dream Team today, and we will be back next week. Have a wonderful week, everyone.